I'm Cindy Wallace with the Amarillo Public Library. We have a really fun craft for you today. In fact, it's so fun, it comes in two parts. We're going to do an easier part that's the gingerbread men. We're going to do some gift tags with simple quilling, and then we're going to work our way up to part two, which is the winter ornament quilling. I'm so happy to present this to you today. This is great fun. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. The supplies are pretty simple. Most of them you have around the house. Today for quilling, continuation of quilling, we're going to need possibly some corkboard or some soft cardboard that you could pin things into, some cardstock or some colored typewriter paper. I would mention that we're going to be rolling things since we're quilling, and if you don't have fancy quilling tools or don't have a quilling kit yet, then you might be rolling your paper around a pencil or a barbecue skewer. Any little tool that you have around the house works equally well. You just have to go slow when you're rolling. But for supplies for today, cardstock, wax paper I know you've got around the house, the distress inks like you see on the gingerbread person here. We can do that with distress ink rubbed on the edges, or we can use colored pencils or crayons. I'm pretty sure I can help you find everything around the house that you're going to need for the project. We are going to do a little bit of crimping, which is in the quilling kits. The crimping tool you might not have unless you have a quilling kit, but we would just use straight pieces of paper rather than accordion fold paper. That wouldn't keep me from having a good time working on this project today. You'll definitely want some sharp, small scissors, some tweezers, and a little tiny bottle of glue. Let's get started. To start our winter lights, we're going to need some quillography paper or some cardstock. It's a little bit heavier than normal quilling paper. We're going to make a nice sturdy outline for the first part of our ornament. This is one of my favorite ones that I've done, and I really did want to share it with you. I have a corkboard underneath. I have the pattern, which is about 3.5 inches tall, 3.5 to 4 inches, underneath a piece of wax paper. I use pins to hold everything in place until I start getting pins in my quilling. It's important to me to pin like something like that so the wax paper and paper for my pattern do not go askew. I need them to stay right there because I'm fixing to start wrapping and bending paper, making it fit our design. This part is pretty fun. I just used a simple solo cup. It's an 8-ounce cup. My strip of quillography or cardstock paper, which is the a little bit heavier duty of the bunch, is about 16 to 18 inches long. I really want it to be at least wrapping around twice. If it's a little more, doesn't bother me at all. But I'm going to start showing you how I got the circle for that's going to be the outline of our winter light. I'm unsticking my glue, guys. Okay, so remember, it's just a tiny little bit. Get this on camera for you. And my circle for my template is right about there. I can bend it in any shape I want, but I wanted you to see that I don't just glue that one place. I hold it there so that it glues, and I actually touch a few more places. I want this to be, as I said, at least 2 times around. It's already thick paper, but it's very malleable. I can shape it. When I put that glue down, I am holding on to it for around 10 seconds as I work. This helps it stay. Tiny, tiny bit of glue. Wrap, press, hold for around 10 seconds. And I'm actually going into my second lap here. Tiny bits of glue, pressing, keeping a nice straight line. And I'm going to work my way around the cup. This is what makes my project look good in the end, because I've gone to the trouble to outline the ornament, because I could do it without this outline. I've tried. It's so much prettier when you do black to make the color pop, and when you begin to make it a little more complex, by double dosing your colors, which we're going to do on this particular winter light. Okay, holding it as I go, giving it just a moment to dry. Tiny bits of glue, and that's a learned art. It's more tiny bits of glue than you might imagine. There I have it. Slip it off the bottom. Now you've got a nice circle. I'm going to take it and press. Make sure everything's tight. That one I would actually let sit there and dry for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Then I'm going to pinch it just a little bit. This is exactly what this was. I pinch it a bit. I consider what's going to be the top of my ornament. If I have a bad side, I'm going to put it up there because it's going to get covered up. I might pick this side in this case, which means I would be pinching, like holding here, very gently pinching this piece of my ornament, and then we're going to move this over to our pattern. Now that we've got the outline done for winter lights, let's build something to put inside the winter light. We're going to use a filigree pattern, but we're going to start first today with a little marquee. The exciting part about it is we're going to start using two-tone quilling. Now I'm back on my cork board. I have produced my pretty sturdy cardstock outline. Do you see how I have worked it a little bit, and it really closely fits? So now I would pin it in place. As long as you can see exactly what I'm doing, I want you to see that I pin it from the inside and the outside. Get a few more pins. Pin it from the inside and the outside because I want it to stay. I don't want it shifting around on me once I get started. I need my pieces to be in place. So there he is. That's going to hold him in place while I begin to work on some of my pieces. So I thought once we got our little outline done, we would start with this section right here. See this middle section? I would tell you on almost all the things we're working on today, we'd work from the middle out. Get your outlines built or your shading done, and then let's work on the middle out for everything we're working on. Now we're going to do a really interesting piece in that you see between this one how heavy that is. I tried rolling two on top of each other. It made a very thick inside piece for the middle. Then I decorated it with some little seed beads. That was to take my eye off if I wasn't sure I was happy with that solid look, when I was really going for a filigree, pretty lacy look, and that kind of didn't work for me. So I went and tried again, took a lighter hand on this one, as you see, going through the middle here, and that's what I think I'd like to represent to you or show you today, as opposed to two on top of each other. Just got too thick for me. So in this case, I have, 16, 18 inches won't hurt, but a nice long piece of light blue, and I have about an 8-inch piece of purple. That's how we're going to make this right here. And I may even snip off just about 4 inches off my blue because he's pretty long. So I'm going to snip just a little off of him. Then I'm going to start with what I want to be in the middle on my roller, whether I'm hand rolling or electric rolling. Get it in there. I have chosen for the purple to be on the outside as an outline, meaning I want the light blue in the sample I'm showing you to be in the middle. So I've got it in. Let me wind it up there. I want it to be a pretty big marquee is that shape. I'm going to go to my board and I'm going to pick a pretty big circle over here. Look how big that looks. I'll tighten him up in just a second, just a little bit, because I want to show you that I can produce consistent sizes, but I want him to sit there and get used to being in that circle, and he bounces around and springs open a little bit. That's what made this so pretty when I was turning it into a marquee, and I think I much prefer it over the solid look for this particular filigree style ornament. Now I'm going to pick it up out of the circle that it's been sitting in. Move my board aside for you. Hold this with my fingers. I'm going to tighten it up by tugging on it just a little bit. So I want to be in control, not the not the spring, and I want to be able to produce that marquee about the same size as what I'm showing you in the finished product. So I'm rolling him around just a bit, get here to the edge, to constantly put a little needle in my my favorite glue bottle so that my tiny bits of glue come out like I want them to. So I'm going to hold him down again. There you go. It's a purple outside, light blue inside. It can be any two colors you want. I like it very much. It makes the design a bit more complex with a rich color tone as opposed to just one single color. So when I think he's, not going to fall apart and his glue is going to stick, then I'm ready to pinch to make the marquee. I take a circle, I'm watching the middle, it matters to me, and I pinch, I watch the middle, and I pinch. And all at the time I am paying attention. Let me point to where that is staying. I don't want it to land in the wrong place, and I don't pinch too hard. Gently, I can always pinch it harder to make it do what I want it to. But let me show you that I can produce over and over again the very same look and shape with a repeatable size, which was important when I was making this design. So let's pretend that we've made about 6 of those, moving him into place right there. Your next step after you have glued on the fat edge and the fat edge, and you have multiple pieces like this glued in place. So now you've got your middle and you need to contain it with a framing device. So this is back to the cardstock. It's really nice, it's heavy, but it's still pliable. And you simply take a little bit longer piece of cardstock, measure it. It can be a tiny bit longer because you can always clip it off. And then I have cut a piece right here that I think will be about the right shape to put in here. It's already curved, and all I've done to make that happen is to take my fingers and gently work it, get it warm, and sort of already shape it before I even get there into the rounded shape. Then I stop and double check to see if it's going to fit, and I may need to trim it down. Love these tweezers. So if he will fit on one side but he's a little too long, I'd much rather have to snip a little off than to have it way too short and have to use it for another piece. So I'm showing you that I measure it. I drag it through the glue. Let me demonstrate that for you. I have a wax paper covered plate. I draw out a bead of glue. I very much like this technique. Why would you try to glue on the very edge of your paper when you could simply take it, drag, it doesn't take much, remember, so if I just drag it through on the edges and then set it in place, I can glue all the little pieces together, including this little piece right here on each one of them as I go. Let me show you how I hold them in place, glue them, and then pin. And I do that every single time. See the glue right there? He's in place just where I want him to be. Pin, and then I pin inside the marquee as well. If I need to, I pin at intervals inside and outside a line, because it's going right into the cork board until it is dry. So I would produce a multiple, glue each one in place, and then glue it to each other, glue the top part of my middle, and having shaped it, remember, warming, bending gently with your fingers. You will be able to drag it through the glue, trim it if you need to, set it into place. A little more trimming. And just like you did on the top, glue the bottom to the edges, to the marquee, get him in place. I had to pull out on my overall design just a bit. Push inside with my fingers, holding it in place. Drag it through the glue, and I would tell you not to keep going. Once you've got the marquees glued and these upper and lower bands, I would tell you to walk away for a minute and let it dry for about 10 minutes minimum before we go into the most fun part of all, learning how to make a beehive curl for the top and bottom of your design. So once you've got your marquees in place, let's again use two-tone, like a light and a dark. I'll show you how to do that. And let's begin to produce beehive quilling and fill up the winter light. This is one of the most exciting parts of this winter light design. It's called the beehive curl. I've got two pieces of paper. A light and a dark work best because I show off the design. And on my quilling tools, remember I mentioned earlier the slot. Well, I had to switch to a little bit wider slot. It really does need to be able to comfortably go over both pieces of paper. If you're having to fight it, pick a bigger tool so that you have an easier time rolling it. I am a half inch, not halfway, a half inch down, and I'm rolling the paper, rolling. It's about 3 full rows, maybe 4, and I'm holding and I'm counting to at least 5 because I want the paper to have memory there. And then, see the little curl I've got going? Now I'm going to move my thumb down another half inch or so, slide it back on. This is the fun part, guys. About a half an inch. I want to be able to make 3 or 4 curls. Now again, I'm rolling away from my body towards the curl I just made. At least 3 curls, I think, 3 or 4. Hold it for a few seconds, give it some memory, slide it out. Make sure it's hanging on to what you're trying to do with the curly cues. See right there how good that's looking? Then go down a half inch, a generous maybe half inch, because I want to make 1, 2, 3, almost 4 curls. This is the beehive curl. Let go. I'm going to show the camera. There's that. Moved my thumb back on my paper about a half an inch. Roll, hold, let it get some memory. There we go. And you do the entire strip of paper this way. Then we're going to glue it into the top and bottom of our design. Now that we've got our beehive curl done, it's time to place it. You can see where I'm lining it up with the top, and I'm going to use my tweezers, make sure my design will fit before I start bringing any glue in. He's kind of springy. It's nice because I can make him do what I want him to do. But you see how the curls go along the top right there? That's where I start pinning and gluing. That's how I produced this look on this top. And there's multiple sets of the beehive curl. It's not just that one spread out. But I want you to see me actually getting just a tiny bit of glue where I want it to stay on this top. And I do little pieces at a time and I pin as I go. So if I really want him to stay there, I've got my glue in place. I stick that pin in. I do want you to know when I unpin, out of habit, I screw it in and out. I don't just pull the pin, which might have a little bit of glue on it. So I'm moving a pin right there, guys. I actually twist as I'm pulling. And I'm continuing to work around the top of the winter light, and then I will go back and put pins in as needed to hold things in place, and I literally work my way around the ornament. I wanted you to see right there, I would actually pick him up and squeeze him into that place. Let me get a little bit of glue there for you. And I know you will have the idea after that. A little heavier right there, because I don't want him going anywhere once I sort of force the spring back in that little hole. I want him to stay there. So now you're beginning to understand why so many pins are visible in some of these designs. Let me get him mashed down for us. Take the pin out if you need to. Recompress him a little bit. Move him into place. These tweezers, as you can see, are terribly important. Now I don't put any glue right there because I've got to make another beehive curl out of the pink and purple and fill the space up, which is how it turns into that. And what I liked about it is that it's forgiving in that you can reposition, stretch it, condense it, because it's kind of functioning like a spring or a beehive curl, and I really like the finished look. Okay, we just have one step left. For the very top of our winter light, we're going to make a two-toned large circle and turn it into a square. Now we're going to finish our holiday light, or winter light, with a topper piece. As you can see, I tried to show you how long it is right here. The turquoisey blue piece is about 16, 18 inches long. The black piece is 7, 8 inches long. I want the black to end up on the outside. This is going to be the top where I would put a jump ring or a piece of ribbon. If I want the black on the outside, I better start with the blue. So I'm going to roll the blue, mashing a little bit because I'm using that heavy cardstock for my black. This is the way I did all the others. I actually am going to finish by hand. Remember, that cardstock is thicker. It's either best rolled by hand, which you see me doing after I've got a shape started, or by a hand tool as opposed to the electric tool. Now right now, guys, I have a really small, there you go, tight inner blue, outer black, but I need him to be big for this step that we're going to work on. So I'm choosing between this big hole and this one. Either one will work okay. I think I'm going to go with this one. Now watch him undo, spring out, get a little bigger, because he has to relax enough before we pick him up, before I glue him together. I want it to sit there for a second. And I poke it with a pin or my finger until it relaxes, and like you see, then we're going to put him on the ornament top. Now that we have demonstrated the outlining, the middle pieces, and the beginning of the beehive curl, it's time to learn how to do that top piece where the ribbon or the jump ring will be. And I am holding the piece that we just made. It's pretty big. It's very similar to this piece over here. This time I've got a kind of bright blue with a black, and I need to turn it into a square. So there are a couple of ways to do it. You can use your board and put it in the square and pin the edges to it, or you can shape it with your fingers. I'll show you why the board method I think might work a little bit better. Let me show you right here. I think you might like this better. See how I've taken this green one right here and I have the pins in the corners? Well, that's what I'm recommending that you do. Let me take these pins out, lift it up so you can see. I very much like the contrast of the two colors, and now that it's been sitting in here for several hours, I have some nice corners that I can put right here. Well, that's what I need to do this one. He needs to go right there, and then I would take my pins and I'm going to flip him over. I want the so-called bad side or glue side to be where no one's going to see it in the end. And I'm going to pull this corner of this one piece into the corner of the cork board, and then I'm going to gently pull it in to the other corner, and see how it's beginning to take on a bit of a square shape. That's exactly how I did this one. And then I would take more pins gently mash and pin corners and let them sit there. And I don't try to make it do too much all at once. I know that's rounded from your point of view right here at the moment, and this is more square, but I let it sit there for a while before I take my fingers and pinch here and here, which is what I did right here. You can see where it's got a little more of a square. It's where I've pinched it with my fingers. Now do you see how there's a rounded edge right there? I've got to push it with my fingers gently. So let's do that. I'm just literally going to take my finger, push in gently along the middle in between. Then I would put glue. I'm not actually going to glue it because I don't want this color there. I put my glue right there on the top with my slightly smushed in one and put him right there as the topper. I'll wait because I actually want to use this color on this top after I get the corners fully formed. And that's all there is to the ornament. After that, you can put in a piece of ribbon or a jump ring, and you have a really pretty filigreed winter light. Wasn't this the best project? I love doing this with you. So I think we're down to the finished product here. As you can see, we've got a beautiful beehive curl winter light ornament. If you want to, if you haven't already, go back and check out the gingerbread boy and the gift tag video. If you like us, thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell. We'll let you know when we've got more videos coming out. Thanks so much, guys. Happy holidays.